But one of the overarching issues that I have with the orange ape is the fact that he is a criminal. There is no question that Donald Trump is a New York-style gangster. No offense to New York, but you know what I'm talking about. I could say Chicago-style gangster. I could say Atlanta-style gangster, although Atlanta hasn't had the kind of organized crime that Chicago, New York, Philly, various cities in New Jersey, L.A., Detroit, let's be real. We know where the mafia and the Las Vegas, where the mafia and the gangsters wound up. And Trump is from that mold, just a complete ignoramus and a gangster. The problem with his being a gangster, even Al Capone eventually was brought down, but the problem with Trump's gangsterism is that he's president of the United States, thanks to the Russian military intelligence who helped him get there, and who continues to ensure that he's going to stay there by controlling the son of a bitch. There is nothing that Trump can do without the approval of the Russian military intelligence handlers who own the son of a bitch. They own him totally. I don't know how they own him. I don't know what it is that they have on this monster, but you can bet your ass they have something. But Trump being just the epitome of the combination of gangsterism and fascism. Stumble. I get very, very confused about what to say sometimes when I'm talking about the orange ape, because my inclination is to just get verbally insane. Well, if you're a regular listener to this program over the years, you've watched or you've listened how the more Trump was in office, the more I just tended to lose it. There were some other reasons that I was tending to lose it, but that was where it concerned this podcast. That was the main reason. The criminality of this son of a bitch, and the fact that no matter what anybody said, he continued to get away with it. Just acting as though the American people don't exist. But what really, really drives me berserk is the fact that this son of a bitch is trying to claim the mantle of a law and order president when he is surrounded with criminals. When his campaign managers, all sorts of people, his advisors, have gone to prison or been indicted or awaiting trial or been charged with crimes. And those are just the ones we know about. And ever since William Barr was given the task of dismantling the Justice Department, we have no idea how many criminal probes by federal attorneys around the country have been deep-sixed because William Barr has said, nah, let's not go there. This is a criminal enterprise unlike anything ever in the United States. Forget the 5 families from New York. Forget Al Capone's gangsterism. Forget all of the legendary thugs and killers and murderers of the mafia era. Forget that. That was chump change, chicken feed, nothing. This guy, the orange ape, Donald John Trump, the most gangster son of a bitch ever in this country, ever. So I'm referring back now to Nick Kristof, one of my favorite writers at the New York Times. Kristof starts his column with this. Even as President Trump accepted the Republican presidential nomination on the White House lawn, lawbreakers rampaged through the Capitol. Would our law and order president leap off the podium and tackle them? He once said he would race unarmed into a building to tackle a school shooter. But sadly, he ignored these blatant lawmakers because they're presidential aides violating the Hatch Act restrictions on political manipulation of government. Do you understand that? Those are the lawbreakers. Well, the orange ape did his criminal bullshit when he accepted the nomination. Anyway, it's a law that the ape doesn't want to uphold, the Hatch Act. And that's the one that says that you can't be an office holder and there's restrictions on political manipulation of government. Let me just fall back on what Christoph has written here. It's against the law, but being against the law not only is not a reason to inhibit Trump, but sometimes it's a reason to stimulate him to violate the law because he's that kind of a jackass gangster. Asked about the Hatch Act, the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, scoffed, quote, "Nobody outside of the Beltway really cares," end quote. This is where we are. Nobody cares. Wow. But inside the Beltway, oh yes, inside the Beltway, Trump and that whole clutch of phony son of a bitches who spoke at the Republican National Convention, they conjure up a grave national threat from anarchists. Those mysterious people dressed in black. Ooh, they're the ones. It's them. Look at that. They set a car on fire. Trump, the ape, the gangster, in his acceptance speech, said, quote, "Your vote will decide whether we protect law-abiding Americans or whether we give free rein to violent anarchists and agitators and criminals." End quote. You son of a bitch, you. Wow. Wow. And also during that convention last week, the circle jerk by these Republicans, it included what were purported to be video glimpses of Biden's America, scary scene of fire raging in the streets. But that video, it was fire raging in the streets of Barcelona, Spain. It wasn't Biden's America or even America at all. Just another stream of the Trump gangsters' lies. Oh, and by the way, by the count of the Washington Post, which has been keeping track, Trump has said more than 20,000 lies, falsehoods, and misleading statements. I don't know what the difference among those three. Since taking office, 20,000. Jesus Christ. And even if that fire in that city had been filmed in America this year or last year or the year before, it wouldn't have been Biden's America. That's Trump's America. That's Trump and Putin's America. That is the America that Russian military intelligence and the fascist son of a bitch Vladimir Putin want to see. And they have in place the perfect man to be the conductor, the leader of the band, this ignorant savage Donald Trump. The real Biden's America? Really? That was the period when he was vice president? It was a time, I'm sorry to say this, but it was comparative calm. It was growing prosperity. It was improving health care. It was still the gunning down in the street of African American men. But look what has happened since the ape and the Russian military intelligence have taken over the country. Look at what has happened. But as Christoph points out, Trump is determined to terrify Americans. I mean, are you terrified? I'm worried, but I'm worried because of him. In his positive, upbeat, loving, kind, city on a shining hill acceptance speech for renomination, Trump had also said, quote, "If you want a vision of your life under a Biden presidency, think of the smoldering ruins of Minneapolis, the violent anarchy of Portland, the blood-stained sidewalks of Chicago." End quote. Who? I'm sorry. That is just so over the top. I mean, who wrote that? That must have been the little Nazi Jew, Stephen Miller, who wrote that. One of his chief advisors. Yes, the little fascist Jew, Stephen Miller. So, okay, let me comment for a second. Yeah, there has been some violence and some looting in American cities. And that is, as Christoph points out, quote, "This is a genuine challenge to order and economic recovery," end quote. That's right. But if you use any objective measure, the biggest risk comes from right-wing, neo-fascist, Trump-sucking, Russian military intelligence-inspired white supremacist Christians in this country. There's where the violence comes from. There's where the instigation of violence comes from. When you have people who are so I don't want to use the word inspired, committed, infuriated, motivated to violence by somebody like this orange son of a bitch in the White House. When you have people who see the power of the United States government being used to end United States government, the power of the Constitution being used to shred the Constitution. And no matter how loudly people protest, no matter how many thousands or millions go into the streets about racial injustice, economic injustice, educational injustice, all sorts of injustice, the shit just continues. And then we wind up with a monster like this in the White House. And then the power of the White House is used to perpetuate the violence. And we wonder why people throw rocks. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.